So here we go again. I want to graph this function f of x, which is a piecewise function again. It says 2x minus 3, and then 5, and then negative 3x plus 5. I'm showing you right now what we did on the previous problem. We still have the same graph from the last example. So how do you erase it and graph the new one? Well, it's very straightforward. We're just going to go to the y, and then once you get to the y menu, select whichever line you want by using the arrows up and down. Then if you want to erase everything on this line, it's very straightforward. You just click on clear and it will erase everything. And now we're going to try to type in the equations that we have in this problem: 2x minus 3, 5, and negative 3x plus 5. So let's begin. So I'll do this a little bit faster this time. So I'm going to go 2 and then x minus 3, close the parentheses. And then I have to put the condition x is less than or equal to 0. So remember, I'm kind of sort of like multiplying the equation with the condition. That's how the calculator is built in order to understand these piecewise functions. But, you know, here we go. X less than or equal to. So I got to click second and then get into that test menu. And less than or equal to is option number 6 for me. So I could go down to number 6, then click enter, and then click 0, and then close this. If I stop right now and don't do anything else, my graph is going to look weird. It's going to just have a straight line and then it's going to zero out after. That's because I didn't put the second and the third conditions. So, you know, I need to go back and do that. If I click Y and go back to do the rest. So the next step is to plug in the 5. So again, put 5 inside its own parentheses, and then the condition. The condition here is that 0 is less than x, which is less than 2. And I'm reading that from the side over here on the function f of x, which is part B of the problem that we're working on. So I need to put less than, so second, go into the test menu. Less than is option number 5. So if you want a quick way to do it, just click 5 on your keyboard. And it will put less than on your screen. X, again, I need another less than. So I'm gonna go second test, click 5 one more time, and then put the number 2. Close parentheses. If I stop right here and look at the graph, you will notice it's going to be a weird graph. It's gonna go straight, but that's again not the full picture. We need to keep going. There's a third condition, so I'm gonna go ahead and type in the third condition. So I'm gonna go ahead and scroll all the way to the end, then type in the condition at the end, which is negative 3x plus 5 and its own condition, which is x is greater than or equal to 2. So second math, that gets me into the test menu. Greater than or equal to is option number 4. And then finally the number 2, and close the parentheses. And at this point, if I click graph, I'll see an exact picture of what my function looks like. So it has 3 steps, one that points up, one that's horizontal, and one that points down. So at this point, all you have to do is transfer this to the paper in front of you somehow. And you can do it in a variety of different ways. So you can, again, click second and then table, and then just kind of read off some numbers here, record them on your paper, then put them on the grid, connect them, and you're basically finished. Another way of doing that is to go second, is to go into the graph, then click on trace. So as you can see already, it says 0 is 2. And I can trace, for example, negative 1. I could trace negative 2. I could trace 0. I could trace 1, 2, and so on and so forth to get as many points as I need in order to finish the graph. So let me go ahead and do that. Let me transfer some of these numbers onto the paper. So here we go. I already made the table. I copied the numbers from my calculator, and I just need to keep in mind that there are 2 borders in this case, 0 and 2. So let me put dashed lines around 0 and 2, so that way the lines don't extend too far. This is where 0 is, and 2 itself is going to be right here. So this again reminds me that there are 3 different graphs. One before the dashed line, one between the 2 dashed lines, and then one after the 3rd dashed line. So let's see, 0 is already on the graph and 2 is already on the graph, so those are the borders. Now when x is negative 2, the y is negative 2. So that's the first point from my table. When x is negative 1, the y will be 0. That's the second point on my table. That's gonna go here. And then 0, 2. When x is 0, the y is going to be 2. So it seems like they're all lining up in a straight line, so that's great. When x is 1, the y is 5. When x is 1, the y is going to be 5. Okay, so that one is a single one all by itself. And then 2, 4. When x is 2, the y is supposed to be 4. When x is 3, the y is supposed to be 1. And finally, when x is 4, the y is negative 2. So we have no issues with the first line. The first line seems like it's going to look like this. The third line seems like it's going to look like that. The only problem is the middle line. I don't really know. I cannot connect these points together like that because that's not how it looked like on my screen anyway. So I have to do a little bit of work and maybe investigate some additional numbers between 0 and 2. The only number that I put between 0 and 2 was 1, so I may need an additional point, maybe like 1.5, or maybe choose 0.5 and figure out what it does on the calculator. So for instance, I can try to trace 0.5 and see what I end up with. The point is going to be 5. I could try to trace 1.5, for example, and again, the y-coordinate is going to be 5. I could try to trace 1.999, and I'll see that the y-coordinate is still going to be 5. So no matter what, when I'm between 0 and 2, I'm getting a 5. But when I click 0 itself, I get 2. When I click 2 itself, I get 4. So that tells me what? That tells me that the line between 0 and 2 is going to be a straight horizontal line, but at the end, the circles that I'm drawing should be open. So in other terms, the line does not touch those borders in this case. It just goes between them, but it closes at this border here, and it closes at that border there. So that's kind of the graph.